What the hell, man?
Yeah,
Bears.
Bears indeed.
Bears.
It's been a day out here. I think that the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, Justin Fields, is angry. I think he's embarrassed. I think he's uncomfortable out there right now, and he's expressing all of that. Did right from the very beginning of the press conference. For people who don't know, he was asked to evaluate the tape. Hey, what went well and what went poorly? And went through a couple of things that went well, and we all know the parts that went well, and those were a couple of drives, especially the first drive when DJ Moore was involved, and then later on the Chase Claypool touchdown. So he obviously had good things to say about that. But he said, as far as the bad is concerned, he said that he felt this is a guy who rushed for 1,000 yards last year, felt robotic out there, that he's thinking too much, that he's not playing freely, that he has too much information, that it could be too much coaching. All of that is in his head, and that's what he is feeling, and he was ready to talk about it today, guys.
So, what did you think of what you heard from him and how he is working with or against his coaches?
A couple of things went through my head, Lawrence. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, he was practically transparent that he doesn't like the way he is having to, stick to some of the new ideals wrote during the game. Like, he mentioned that they, working on him being a pocket passer in camp, which I think he understood, but I think he just doesn't like the idea that in a game situation, it's almost like they've canceled his instincts out there. And I think that that's some of what was going on in training camp. And, part of why maybe he didn't look as good because he was, I just said all those things, uncomfortable. Lawrence, the only thing I'm confused about in this, and, there wasn't enough time to ask all the questions we wanted of Justin Fields, but one of the things that does stick in my mind is that Justin Fields wanted this seemingly as much as the coaching staff wanted it, and a lot of the fan base for that matter. And when I say what he wanted, and that is to become a passing quarterback, because hey, that's what I did at Ohio State, and I wasn't a running quarterback at Ohio State. And yeah, all of the rushing and the accolades with my feet are great, but he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but coming pretty close to quoting Justin Fields here, he said that he wanted those records, he'd prefer to have those records with his arms. So he is clearly frustrated with the coaching staff and the game plans and what he feels like he can and cannot do. But I thought he wanted this, and apparently maybe just not this way.
Grote, that's what I've been saying too, is I heard him when he talked about that last year. And I know his coaches probably did. But as I mentioned to Lawrence and Dan, it might have just been an overcorrection. There's a way to make all of this work. He's got too much talent to not make it work.
That's what a great word you just used there, over correction. And that very well could be, as in, yeah, he was game, but he wasn't game for it being coached like this. Like I thought, like Fields, maybe he's thinking to himself, I thought it would be a different way. I didn't know you were going to completely take that part of my game away. I thought it was really, and I know that you guys were able to listen to the entire press conference, but I thought one of the more interesting parts of it, amongst all of the interesting things that he said, was he gave a very specific example of something he didn't feel like he could do. That was the second quarter strip sack, where before, I believe, yeah, it was Dan Wiederer who asked the question, before he could even get the question out of his mouth in regards to what would you have done differently, Fields was like, yeah, I'm leaving. I'm gone, as in he would have run out of that pocket. Like he was anxious to discuss that particular play, because he's like, I think that is the microcosm right there, that play, because I think in his head he had it, I got to stay here, 1,002, I got to stay in the pocket here, I have got to do it. But no, he didn't. He looked like a quarterback who didn't have presence of mind in that particular play. I mean, how many times have we seen it in the last couple of years where we're watching on TV or at the game and we're seeing this develop, and it's like a horror show where you see the defender about to sack him or strip the ball away from him, and then it occurs. And on that play, he said, hell yeah, I would have been out the door on that play if I felt like I could.
When did Braxton Jones hurt his neck?
It's a great question. That one surprised me today, Dan. I did not see the Braxton Jones neck injury coming today. So the answer to that is I don't know. They placed him on injured reserve. He is, which means, just to remind people constantly, that means a minimum of 4 games. However, when Matt Eberflus was asked, could it be season ending? He said, we don't know yet. So in other words, that part has not been ruled out. And just the way he was answering the questions about him and the body language, I feel like, and it's a neck injury, I feel like that this is going to be more than 4 games. I don't know if it's going to be the season for Braxton Jones, but my guess is, inferring from everything going down here today, that Braxton Jones is going to miss more than 4 games.
But do we know what happened during the game?
No, I don't know. I do not know what happened to Brad. I guess I was not at the game, but he did speak afterwards, so he was available to the media.
I mean, I know this thing happens. This happened with Eric Kramer, where Eric Kramer was doing his TV show on Fox Sunday after a game, and then my neck hurts, and it turns out he had a broken neck. So, I mean, I know there's precedent for it, but I didn't see a hit or him come off the field or him receive any attention.
Yeah, I didn't either. That's why it was so surprising to, I think, all of us in the media room. Number one, that Matt Eberflus is actually offering an injury update on somebody, and that it was sort of, honestly, the last guy you would expect, because Braxton Jones has just been a pillar, exemplary when it comes to durability, and now he's out. So yeah, no, don't know. And you're right, Dan. Like, when they talk, typically that means that they're fine. So this is obviously something that's set in, or that Braxton Jones felt as time went on. It's interesting too that Darnell Mooney, who has a knee injury or some sort of knee bruise, he spoke to us on Monday, so we'll see about his situation as well. Sounds like a little more positive with him and Eddie Jackson, but there is a lot of mystery surrounding exactly how Braxton Jones hurt his neck.
I'm sorry, Leila, go ahead.
No, I mean, I know that we've got a couple things to get to with Braxton Jones first. My only question for you, Mark, was, as somebody who's at that building multiple times a week, when you heard the way Justin Fields said what he said today, was there any change in the way he said things, or maybe the attitude that he had, or was it just what he said that was overall the biggest concern or the biggest change? Because I think you know him well enough to know that he says things in a professional manner that I don't think goes out of character, and I think that's important too to note in all of this.
Absolutely, Leila, and he maintained his calm. He never raised his voice. But what I will say that was different was Justin Fields, and this always sounds evil when we say this word that I'm about to say. Justin Fields had an agenda today. He knew the questions he was going to get, and he was ready to answer them. A lot of times, when we have these press conferences with Justin Fields, he's never a jerk, but he always holds back. Like, he doesn't give us much. Sometimes he'll give 1- and 2-word answers. Today, that was not the case. He was expanding on every answer. He was ready for these questions, and quite frankly, it sounded to me like he was hoping for these questions. And I'll go back to what I said right at the very beginning. I think this guy was embarrassed. I think he is embarrassed. I mean, I think, as much as they try to say they don't pay attention to what's going on, he knows that people were talking about him, nationally as a potential MVP candidate. He also knows that, and I don't know how you guys feel, but it feels like to me, nationally, he's still getting the benefit of the doubt, and it's the Bears. Nationally, they have blamed the coaching on a lot of this, and locally as well. And I think that he is out here to say, yeah, what you guys think is true. I'm being overcoached at this point. I'm not allowed to do, or else I don't feel like I'm allowed to do what I really want to do, and I know how to do this job, and I think that there is a better, more free way to do it. But, simply answering the question, the man had an agenda today.
What's it been like to cover this Alan Williams story?
It's just so weird, Lawrence, and I hate even giving like a preface like this, because I've been burned so many times. I think we all have as reporters, when you think somebody is, this sort of perfect human being. Alan Williams always very complimentary of the media and all of that, but they have been very coy, the Bears and Matt Eberflus, on what exactly is going on with Alan Williams. For people who don't know, he missed the game for last week's game, the Tampa Bay game, for personal reasons. That's what they said. On Monday, I asked Matt Eberflus for an update, and he said that they don't have an update right now. Today, he was asked about it again. He said, quote, "I don't have an update right now." He was then asked a couple of follow-up questions, and this is where it gets alarming. And that is, he was asked, "Is Alan Williams still the defensive coordinator?" And then the answer to that from Matt Eberflus, "I don't have an update right now."
And have you
Mr.
talked to
Eberflus,
him?
Yes, and have you spoken to him? And then he said again, Dan, "I don't have an update right now."
I'd just like to know
So,
where he is. At this
Yeah.
moment, where is Alan Williams? Is he okay?
right.
Are people close to him okay? But the most important thing, like from a reporting standpoint, find him.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we are hearing things out here. I am hearing things, but is nothing that I can confirm right now. So it's, people.
I get you.
There are things swirling right now in terms of Alan Williams.
And it makes you wonder why the Bears aren't doing a better job of making sure that isn't what happens. Like that.
Yeah,
They have
no,
not.
that's what I mean. Yeah,
They
exactly.
haven't helped themselves out. If some of the stuff that all of us are now hearing is accurate, then you would think that they would have a better plan on how to address some of this.
Yeah, and I do have text messages out to the most important people, powerful people in the organization, and not hearing back as of right now. And there is a part of this where we do have to allow for that, being that it is a personal situation. That's as much as we know publicly, and once all the information is gathered, I assume that I honestly thought that today we would get an update on it, but tomorrow is the day when the coordinators are scheduled to speak, when Alan Williams is scheduled to speak. He did not speak last Thursday either, for the record, so it wasn't just like a last-second thing, like where he didn't go to the game. He was not in his usual seat last week, so I do hope that when they feel comfortable that they could tell us what's going on, that we get it right away. But I think I can safely say, without giving too much away, something is up, and it doesn't seem like it's very good.